Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Shaka Hislop and the beigest man in Connecticut. Stevie Nicol joins us as well. We also welcome to the programme Julien Laurens and Don Hutchison are here to talk about what's going on in the football world. The big story, of course, coming out of the Premier League is that Sandro Tonali is officially a Newcastle player. He's the most expensive Italian in the history of the game, of course, making that big move from Serie A to the Premier League. Don, you've seen a lot of him. How excited should Newcastle fans be about this acquisition?
Very, Dan, because not only in his own ability, it'll be the ability to bring other players like Bruno Guimaraes into the game even more, because he plays a variety of positions. He's not just a central midfield player in terms of a defensive one. He's best when he's playing as a number 8, but I think for Newcastle he'll play a little bit deeper, probably alongside Joe Linton, and then Bruno Guimaraes will probably get freed up a little bit more to go and express himself. But they're getting a really hard-working player, they're getting a diligent player. They're also getting a player that I think can take on instructions very well from different coaches. And I think when I look at this 11 here, that looks very, very exciting to me. Of course, Tonali can play where Longstaff is, but I think that's not a bad Newcastle 11. I think that's pretty strong.
For fear of upsetting the Newcastle contingent on this show, Jules, if he was so good, why has he gone to Newcastle and not an even bigger side?
Oh. It's a good question. I mean, they were ready to pay that amount of money. I think the interest that they showed, and they clearly did their homework before. They also knew that Milan needed some money. And that I think they placed their bid and they started the negotiation at the right time. They wanted a player like Tonali. We've said before that the tactic for Newcastle had been, at some point you throw the fishing net and you see what you bring back to the shore. And he worked with Bruno Guimaraes. This time was different. They identified him in the kind of that profile that Don explained. That's the one they wanted. Yes, they could have gone for someone a bit different like Kefren Turam, much younger, not the same experience, cheaper as well. But they thought, you know what, let's go and try it. They knew Milan needed some money. And in the end, this is a deal that worked for the two clubs, certainly. Newcastle were ready to pay that amount of money. It's a lot of money, 80 million euros. Milan wanted that money. For Tonali, who's a Milan fan, it's a little bit different. I think in his mind, 6 weeks ago, he never thought he would leave Milan, and let alone to go to England. So for him, obviously, it's a bit different. But for the two clubs, it's a very good deal.
Mayor of Newcastle?
It makes a lot of sense in the quality that Tonali brings. I'm just not sure, Sydney, as Don has Newcastle lined up, whether you get the kind of quality from wide areas from Joe Linton and Longstaff. I think both of those quality players, Longstaff can play better out wide. I just like Joe Linton through the middle, as I do Guimaraes, as I do Tonali. So now all of a sudden you have three players who I think are very good box-to-box midfielders, and you're trying to shoehorn them in and get quality from wide areas from one of them. So I'm waiting to see exactly how that works. But I don't think there's any questioning Tonali's quality, his abilities in winning the ball as a defensive midfielder, or when he does choose to go forward, what he brings. And that is not as often as he prefers to sit in front of that back four.
Shaka's saying the money should have been spent elsewhere. Do you agree?
No, I think it's a good sign. I think it's expensive. I think it'll be a 4-3-3. You know, whether it's Almiron, San Maximan, or Murphy or Willett. Newcastle play with three up front, and so those three that you like in the middle, we'll be able to spend some time in the middle. It's a good signing. I think it's too expensive though.
Don, what's a successful season for Newcastle?
Trying to establish themselves in the top four, Dan. It's going to be difficult. Obviously, there are lots of runners and riders this season who are going to get stronger, but so are Newcastle as well. So I think it's the evolution of where Newcastle want to be. It's trying to stay in that top four. Obviously, trying to win a trophy is massive for any Newcastle player that wins a trophy. They'll be idolised on Tyneside, but the club needs to kick on, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to just, sign Tonali and keep the players that they've got and it's an automatic top four. It's still going to be a fight because everyone are spending a lot of money on a lot of quality. But if you can try and envisage where Newcastle want to be, it's top four for the next 2 or 3 years and then just build very, very slowly before they try and bring in the very, very elite players. That's going to take them to the top. That's where they want to be. That's the ambition of the club.
Do you think they're going to bring in more players, Jules?
Without doubt, I think we could see more midfielders. We've explained at the end of the season how well they did and how well they were building this squad, this team, but the spine of the club as well, from the ownership to Dan Ashworth and Eddie Howe and all the teams around. Great things, but we also, I think, highlighted positions where they should and could upgrade players. And Longstaff is really good and he's from there, so this is his club, no doubt, no problem. Joy Linton as well, but Tonali is a step up. Tonali is a Bruno Guimaraes level. And I think already that takes you to another level. Yeah, Stevie's right, it's a lot of money, but Tonali is a fantastic player. So you expect other positions. Stevie mentioned the wide players. I think you can, again, do better than Almiron and Saint-Maximin or Willock and Murphy, for example. So I think this is also the area they're looking at. And maybe just strengthen as well your midfielder with another player. I mentioned Kefren Thuram. I know they like him a lot. I don't know if it's enough to go and spend the 50 million euros on him, especially after the under 21 euros, the terrible euros that he had. But this is the idea. I think they will maybe add 2, maybe 3, maybe, to just make this squad even more competitive, even more solid, even more loaded in quality as well as quantity. Because let's not forget, they also have the Champions League next season. This is going to be a huge season for them with a lot of games.
I think Newcastle have to add an attacker.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think you saw that. Callum Wilson has missed a number of games through injury himself, but more to that point, when Alexander Isak went down injured during the course of last season, their top 4 push almost came off the rails. And I do not think that, again, as Jules mentioned, with Champions League football and the added burden of that you can afford to not have, at the very least, cover. And
which striker would you like, Shaka?
If it's Harry Kane, we'll have Harry Kane.
Harry Kane?
We'll have Harry
Over
Kane.
Mbappe?
Why not?
Over Mbappe?
We're not going to go for Mbappe. He's too much trouble. He'll be bringing Jules along, go down the big market.
Yeah.
You can't have Jules down the big market.
Shaq?
It's a very big market, Dan.
Really? What goes on there?